Burkhardt on the call. And as you heard it right there, it was a quick 10-0 run. And the Charlotte Hornets were up big in a game that just never felt quite right for your Portland Trailblazers as they went into Charlotte against another team battling for a play-in in their conference and lost 109-93. Let's talk about it and get you ready for what's ahead today as the Blazers turn right around to take on the Atlanta Hawks. This is Blazers Game Day. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt, back in the saddle again. A massive shout out to Brendan Slaughter, who kept the seat warm for me for a few days while I was out at the OSAA State Wrestling Championships down at Veteran Memorial's Coliseum for the last 3 days. Speaking of which, if you have not been out there post-reno, gosh, just a completely different venue. Simple how little fixes can change it. The new seating, the new paint job, removing the doors so you got light coming through into the from the main concourse to the seating area. Some beautiful work they've done there, and it was a great tournament. And we'll be back at it this weekend with some OSAA basketball state championships next week. So Brendan will be filling in for me for a few more games. So shout out to him. But we're back at it today, and hopefully getting to talk about a Blazers win by the time this is all said and done, because it was a rough one for Portland just a night ago, actually a morning ago, as Shacker reminded me. It wasn't a night game. It was breakfast with the Blazers. An 8 a.m. Blazers game day followed by a 10 a.m. tip, and maybe the Blazers were just a little tired because they never, ever got anything going offensively. Of course, didn't have Denny Avdia, still don't have Shaden Sharp. Those things will impact you in the long run. Those are your two leading scorers. It's been the engine of your offense all season long. Not an excuse, but it's definitely easy to look at and go, yeah, I can understand why the offense struggled. Now, we've talked many a times about the niceness of having Scoot Henderson back and Drew Holiday who can run an offense. Now it's a matter of them actually getting to run that offense, because the last few games, the offense has not looked good. No offense, no offense. Lack of offense has become slightly offensive for the Trailblazers. Defensively, they've done some things to try to keep teams at bay, but when they can't score the rock, it's a rough night at the office. Now, they did get a nice win against Chicago, 121-112, and then, like I said, bounce back, go to Charlotte in a game that definitely winnable. We talked about this going in. You're hitting that stretch where you're playing teams that are either on the outside of the play-in, looking in, or just fully entrenched in the play-in, but they're not world-beating teams. Now, Charlotte has played much better over the last 3-4 weeks, but we still looked at this game as a game Portland could grab. And unfortunately, they didn't. Let's take a look. Let's break it down. Look at the box score. It's time for the Rip City Rewind.
It's time for the Rip City Rewind on Blazers Game Day, presented by Coors Light. Choose chill, Portland.
As I said, the Blazers struggled in this one. Right out of the gate in the first quarter, they trailed Charlotte 29-17. Right out of the jump. Struggling from the field. They were just 8 of 24, 33%, 0 of 10 from beyond the arc in the first quarter. Meanwhile, Charlotte was 4 of 15. They were 10 of 27 from the floor. So they weren't shooting the ball lights out either, but they did get 5 of 7 from the free throw line. Blazers couldn't get it going. What do you do when the offense is just struggling mightily as it was? And then through the rest of the game, you even get to halftime, and you outscored Charlotte 26-22. At halftime, you were shooting 40% from the floor. Charlotte was shooting 36. It kind of felt like you might have a chance, but second half, they ran away with it. Final score, 109-90. 3 points in the paint was fairly even, 46-42 in favor of Portland. Second chance points, 18-15 in favor of Charlotte. Fast break points, neither team had a lot, 7-2 in favor of Charlotte. Bench points, 31-26 in favor of Charlotte. Turnovers were pretty even. Points off turnovers, Charlotte did have 21 to Portland's 13. That will definitely impact you in the long run. They made 16 three-pointers, while Portland made 11. They made 5 more shots from the free throw line, 3 more shots overall. So the game is weird because we watched it. You watched it. I watched it. Brendan watched it, talked about it. It felt like it was fairly even. And you can look at the box score and verify that it looked fairly even. But it never felt like Portland had a chance to win it, just because the offense was just struggling. It never looked smooth. And if the offense isn't smooth, you're in trouble. You're absolutely in trouble. So that's what they need to do tonight. We'll talk about that a little bit later when I welcome Chad Doing into the show for our keys to the game, because one of my keys, is spoiler alert right now, is just to run the offense. Run the offense. Do what you need to do. Make sure the vehicle stays in the lane it's supposed to and gets to its destination. Right now, without Denny, without Shea, and you're struggling, you're not a Ferrari. You're like a Ford Taurus. Nothing against the Taurus, but it's no Ferrari. But it will still get you from point A to point B as long as you drive it properly. And that's what the Blazers need to do right now. They need to get from A to B and not mess around in between. Individually, we'll start on the Charlotte side of things. Miles Bridges had 14 points, 10 points from Concaniple. So, hey, did a good job holding him in check. 13 points from Diabate. Brandon Miller, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. 15 points from LaMelo Ball. Cody White had 20 off of the Hornets bench. On the Trailblazers side of things, Toumani Camara, 12 points on 4 of 10 shooting. He also had 6 rebounds and 2 assists. 2 points from Chris Murray and 7 points from Donovan Clingan. Now, Donovan Clingan was battling an illness, and there was a chance he may not have played in that game. He ended up getting in. It's one of those things we've talked about, though. You need more production than 7 points out of your starting center, or the fact that your starting center and your starting forward, in this case, combined for 9 points. That itself is just not a recipe for success, and also shows you the struggles that you are having within that starting lineup, getting the offense moving. Now, the old men, they did their job. Drew Holiday had 25 points, just 4 turnovers, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He was 9 of 16 from the floor. Jeremy Grant had 21 points as well. No other players outside of those two and Toumani Camara in double figures. Vit Krejci, 1 for 6 for 4 points. Scoot Henderson, 8 points, 4 assists, 3 turnovers. 5 points from Robert Williams III. Matisse Thybulle had 5 as well. You did see Young Hansen for 2 minutes, and he did score 2 points. Now you look at what is going on in the injury report tonight. How will impact your Blazers? Denny Avdia, Damian Lillard, Caleb Love, Shaedon Sharpe, and Robert Williams are all out. Robert Williams, to be expected, has not played the second nights of the back-to-back. Questionable as of 3 hours ago when the team last sent an update. Sidy Cissoko questionable with an illness, and Young Hansen questionable with mid-back soreness. Sidy Cissoko played just 7 minutes in that game against Charlotte. Young Hansen played 2. You definitely see them relying on them a little bit more with no Robert Williams in this one. So that's the breakdown of that game. Not much more you can add, except the game just felt meh. It was just so weird. It was a game that you just never felt like they had a chance to win. So you got to fix that one. Get the offense running. Now, one of our texters says, I think it's time to admit Scoot Henderson was a terrible draft choice. I don't think he was. I like Scoot. Scoot can find ways to impact the game. Now, hindsight, right? Thompson twins. I was a fan of Brandon Miller going into that draft. If the Blazers would have jumped to second, and case in point, he had a pretty good game against the Blazers last night or yesterday morning. But Scoot Henderson, I still think Scoot's fine. It's a matter of finding Scoot and putting him in the best spot to succeed. Right now, when you're out there in these lineups you just don't balance out well around him, and he's not a scoring guard. That's a bad part for me for Scoot, is the fact that he was drafted at the same time they traded Dame, and he lives in the shadow of a guy who could go out there and drop 70 on people. That's not Scoot's game. Scoot's game is impacting it via passing the ball, running the offense efficiently. We would see tonight what he can do in that aspect, but scoring is not his forte, and it doesn't need to be. That's why I've likened him to the Steve Nash's, Jason Kidd's, CP3's, Tony Parker's. Not in the same level of those guys. Those are some absolute Hall of Fame names. But one thing that made those guys special was they could drop 50 on you if they needed to, but they didn't need to. They impacted the games in other ways. And I think that's Scoot. And keep in mind, he's played, 10 games? He's missed most of this season. The rust thing is real. Now, another texter says, I'd rather see Caleb Love instead of Wesley. I like Wesley, but we need some offense. Love was doing so well, and they can cut him off, which in turn could ruin his confidence. Not a fan of that move. And I think it's just because the guards are healthy, so it makes it just a little easier to not play him. But I'm with you in the fact that Caleb Love has absolutely earned a spot. His shooting can still be streaky at times, but the fact that he does not shy away from shooting and, in fact, enjoys it, which is something not everyone does. Sometimes you get a guy who has the yips or just doesn't like shooting, and Caleb Love is not that. He likes to go shoot the ball. He is a shooting guard in every sense of the word. That's a good thing to have sometimes. Or you got to live with the ups and the downs, but I think Caleb Love is more than deserved a spot, and we'll see what happens in the long run. Blake Wesley has been good on the defensive end, but at some point, defense is good all the way around. Matisse is great on defense. So's too, and so's Blake. Got to have someone to score the rock. The last few games, getting that guy who can score has definitely been a struggle. If you want to join the conversation like our other texters, all you got to do is text 88528. You can also go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and join the chat there. And of course, the phone number has never changed. 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. We're going to take a quick break here on Blazers Game Day. When we return, we're going to head down to the coach's corner, hear from head coach Tiago Splitter after that game in Charlotte. A little bit later, we'll head behind enemy lines, take a listen to former Trailblazer CJ McCollum, scoreboard reports, and our keys to the game still to come as well here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you. If you'd like to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can hit us up on the text line, 88528, or of course you can go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and join the conversation over there. We're friend of the show, loyal listener and connoisseur of Blazer content, Kirk, is chiming in, and he says, hey, you need to lose. I hate to say it, we're better off losing. And I'm here to tell you, I do not see that being beneficial in any way whatsoever. You can lose and get slightly better ping pong ball odds than Atlanta, but right now you're sitting at a whole game ahead of them. The difference between being 12th and 13th, incredibly marginal. And I don't necessarily see the point in that. The big jump would be trying to get up to 8th or 9th or 7th, where your odds are incredibly larger, but that's not going to happen. You're not catching up to Chicago, who's lost 11 games in a row, and you're going to have to lose 6 more games than them over your next 20. Like, that's not going to happen. The Clippers, who are right there, again, I don't see the difference between 12 and 11. The odds of what happened with Dallas, again, that was great for them. It happened, but there's a reason those odds matter. That just is incredibly low. So losing out on that, I don't see the value in that. Okay, to the difference between 10th and 11th or 11th and 12th to me is a non-starter. I don't care. I would rather this team continue to put their best foot forward and get into a play-in situation. Even if they lose it, then you're still in the lottery. Things are fine. But I'd rather them do that and try to get the experience that a team needs moving forward. I'm not losing my mind. Not saying you are either, Kirk. I'm just saying in general. I'm not losing my mind because they lost to the Charlotte Hornets, a team just like them, fully entrenched in the play-in, who is trying to put their best foot forward, who has been incredibly good over the last handful of weeks. 7-3 in their last 10, winners of 4 in a row. They were great pre All-Star break. They're at 30-31, pretty much just like Portland, kind of entrenched in that play-in. Milwaukee is 3 games back from them in Atlanta, kind of vying, but also kind of not. And so when you're playing play-in teams, and you yourself are a true play-in team, and I truly believe Portland is a true play-in team, you're going to have your ups and downs. It's all part of the learning curve and the learning pains. Like Phoenix is a team that is more of a playoff team than a play-in team. That's why they're right there at 7. And their struggles as of late is because they're missing Dylan Brooks. They're missing Devin Booker. The health issues hurt them. Golden State, DMP, old. You know what I'm saying? But for the Blazers, the going in and playing really good games and then having these down games and losing to a team like Charlotte, which is, these are 50-50 games to me. You're playing teams that are they are you in their conference. In fact, they are a 30-win team. You're a 29-win team. You're right there. You're balanced. You're going to lose some of those games. It's all part of the learning curve, all part of the maturation of a true play-in team. Because if you were a tanking team, then you are completely lost. You have no traction. If you're a playoff team, you're San Antonio, Oklahoma, Houston, you're past the point of trying to find yourself. When you're right in the middle, which is where Portland is, growing pains. So I would rather go through those growing pains and learn. I think for a team with Denny Avdia and all these young guys, hopefully Denny comes back, and a team that wants to go and make a nice run in this window that they have with Damian Lillard still playing here next season, going into a playoff series, even if it's just a play-in, and learning from that is more beneficial than the difference between 1% and 1.5%. Right now, Portland has a 1.5% chance at number 1. They pass the Clippers, it becomes a 2%. Like, I don't, that value is whatever. I am tired of ping pong balls in draft, because at some point you got to get out of the ping pong ball pool. You got to get out of there. You got to put your best foot forward. That's what this team's doing. You go into a game against Charlotte, you don't have Shaedon Sharpe, who's been your number 2 scorer. You don't have Denny Avdia, who's been your best player. You're going to struggle. You're going to have ups and downs. learn from them. And hopefully they learn from them tonight against a team like Atlanta, who, just like Charlotte, is right where Portland is. They come into today's game 30-31, same exact record as Charlotte, 10th place in the Eastern Conference against a 29-32 Portland, who is 9th place in the West. Can you win? We shall see. All right, enough ranting though. Thanks for the comment, Kirk, as always. That's just how I view it, man. I just, we have been doing this ping pong ball lottery nonsense for way too long. Get out of it. Get into the play-in. Now, if you get to the play-in and you lose, guess what? You're right back there. But at least you were in. You had your shot. Now, if they end up getting past Golden State, which is doable, we're talking 2.5 game gap between them into the 8th, and you only have to win one game at that point, and then you get into a playoff series. Give me San Antonio or Oklahoma City for 4 or 5 games. Those games would be extremely beneficial to a young team, more so than going into the draft lottery with the 12th best odds of getting the number 1 overall pick. It's my gut. That's how I feel. How do you feel? Let me know. 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. Of course, you can hit us up on the text line 88528 as well, or go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and join the chat there. Now, speaking of chatting, let me take a break for a second. I want to hear from head coach Tiago Splitter. Hear what he said following that loss in Charlotte. It's time for the Coach's Corner.
It's time for the Coach's Corner with Tiago Splitter on Blazers Game Day, presented by Coors Light. Chill, Portland.
All right, let's hear from Tiago.
Well, there's plays and plays, right? Like there is some that we force end of possessions or stuff like that, but the reality is that we got to stay together. We got to, stick to our offense and let it fly. Guys need that confidence to shoot the ball with confidence, and it's part of the season. You're gonna be up and down with your shot, but you just gotta keep working every day and believe that you're gonna make the next one.
You talked when you got a bunch of guys back that it takes a little bit of time to get guys back in rotation, and you have to almost experiment a little bit. How do you feel like that is going in terms of reintegrating guys like Scoot and Matisse and Blake back into the lineup?
I think Scoot didn't have it today offensively. I think the other days he was a little bit more sharp. Blake, we have him in the second half to bring some energy, and he did that. But also wasn't able to hit outside shots. They were kind of like, sagging out of him. And Matisse, I think, he's still in a lot of games with minutes restrictions, so you can't play him too long. He's still getting in game shape. But he's been spectacular defensively with deflections and shooting the ball here and there. So we got to be patient. It's part of it. It's part of the season where we're getting these guys back, and they need to get in game shape and get used to play with each other. It's part of it.
Coach, Hansen has only averaged 7.5 minutes per game this season. What does he need to show to gain more minutes, and how do you see his long-term role within the team?
Well, I think it's part of the developing, learning the way we play, the way we want to defend. He still needs to get quicker on those pick and roll defenses, being up and down. The game is fast, and he needs to adapt to it. It's just that part of his career where he got to adapt to a new game, to a new culture, a new language, and we got to be patient with him. Honestly, we got to be patient. I understand the expectations, but it's part of his developing.
And there you hear from head coach Tiago Splitter. Massive shout out to Michael Shagger having the audio at the ready when I try to throw him curveballs by accident. But there you hear from him, and obviously a lot of intrigue around Young Hansen, who is definitely a project. They knew that going in, though. It's just the unfortunate part. Everyone wants the instant gratification. How long before you see anything from him? It's going to be a minute. He's clearly raw, and they need to take their time with him. I think being in his spot, it'd be real rough. And this is like not like a pass or anything. I just an observation. It'd be so rough to go to another country, not knowing a lick of the language and having to learn that game at the top level in the entire world. I mean, hey, Chris, you're hosting radio in Japan now. It's the top radio market ever, and we're gonna build you up. You gotta learn the language first, though. I know it's not a direct 1-to-1 comp, but I'm just saying that would be tough. That would be tough. The good thing is the language of basketball translates no matter what. I think the key there that you heard from Tiago is just the game speed. It's so much different than anything he's used to. I think he looks good when I watch him in one-on-one warm-ups, solo warm-ups. You see what's there. It's a matter of putting it together with everybody. I'm not out on a guy year one as a big man. Always takes time for big men, but definitely sitting there wanting to see more from him. It's going to be a big summer for him. You're likely going to see him down at Summer League again. And we've seen that before. We've seen big men, not just Blazer big men, but just big men take time. And hopefully they're right, and hopefully he turns into something. I know a lot of people are getting frustrated, but he was never drafted to be a main part of the rotation this season. I don't think anyone really thought that. I do want to see more from him, though, because, coming in, being called, Chinese Jokic, it's pretty high praise because Jokic is phenomenal. I like Jokic. Young Hansen's a good kid, and he's got a lot of pressure on him back home. I hope he just becomes a good basketball player. The thing is, man, the NBA draft and all this stuff is a crapshoot. How many times we see players come through the league 1 year, 2 year in, they're gone. 4 years, never see him again. The Dames and the CJs that we see were here for a decade plus. Like those are rare. Doesn't happen as much as you think. You latch onto them and you remember them because it is so special. But yeah, it's making it in the NBA is rough, man. I mean, I probably could have done it if I wasn't 5'8". If I was 6'8", I was a shoo-in. Too bad I wasn't. Height matters. All right, that was Coach Tiago Splitter, though, on Young Hansen. And, of course, talking about the continuity with the team. I mean, getting Scoot back, getting Matisse back, getting Wesley back all at the same time, getting those rotations back set. Those things matter. But at the same time, how much? Because you also are a team who's been together all year. You've practiced together. You know each other. Getting that continuity and that chemistry together should be relatively quick. That's one thing about the former Blazer teams we used to have through town that I loved is, yes, we dogged Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless at times because, wanted better at that position. But the chemistry and the continuity that team had was so good. I think that's what allowed them to get so much out of not necessarily so little, but they weren't filled up like a team like Golden State was, but they were still a really good team and they were in the playoffs. Why? Chemistry and continuity and knowing each other. Those things matter. So you got to get that by playing together. And we'll see what happens here in the long run. We're going to take a quick break here, though, on Blazers Game Day. When we return, we're going to take a look at the NBA scoreboards, see how some games are going down around the league, see if anything is impacting your Trailblazers. Then we're going to go behind enemy lines, Blazers in Atlanta tonight, to take on the Atlanta Hawks. And we're going to listen to CJ McCollum, former Trailblazer, hear what he has to say, because the opening question was about playing as former teams. See if he says anything there, because they just played a game against Washington, which is a former team of his. He's bounced around a little bit now, which just feels weird because he felt like a Blazer lifer at one moment in time. We shall see if he ever comes back. Does he get that retirement tour? Or does he do the whole, I'm going to sign, a one-day contract to retire a Blazer? Either way, CJ McCollum coming up here when we return here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio, 620. All right, there we go. I was just waiting to cut to break. No worries. All right, I'm gonna yak at YouTube while we're waiting here. Yep, scoreboard and behind enemy lines. In that order. All right, let's take a look at the YouTube chat while we're on break here. Timmy asks, let's see, the Blazers need a guy like Danhausen. They just need someone to be very good and very evil. Tiago doesn't sound like a Scoot guy. He sounds like Chauncey. I don't know. I think he's given Scoot a good chance. Scoot's ran that offense quite a bit. I just think Scoot's just different. I think we need to understand what kind of player he is. He's a get everyone involved first player, which is great for him. It just takes a lot of playing time to really feel comfortable with that lineup to be that guy. And I get it. I probably sound like the ultimate Scoot defender because there is really Kirk. Like there's things about his game that I really do like, and I'm not out on him. Like I do not think Scoot is terrible. I don't think Scoot is trash. I think Scoot is a good basketball player. I told Joe on draft night, like worst case, you guys drafted a pretty good backup point guard. Then everything else happened, but I think Scoot's gonna be fine. I like Scoot. It's just that he's not Dame and he's not, the Nash and the Tony Parkers, the guys that I mentioned earlier. He plays like them though. He comes into a game and he wants to make the team around him better. He's not looking to be a score first guard, which is just a little bit different than I think Blazer fans are used to from their point guard position. I think Scoot's going to be fine. He's going to be in this league for a long time. If it's as a starter, great. If not, we'll see. But I think he's going to be fine. Now, Timmy asks, is it harder to be in the WWE or the NBA? So it's harder to be in the NBA. I don't think that's a question. Even though WWE's roster is smaller, thank you, smaller than the NBA with the 400 players they have. But if you got a good social media following, they'll put you on a WWE pay-per-view. So, and then Todd, hope both Scoot and Veet get more minutes on the floor. Yeah. Chris Murray's the worst player on the team. You guys are funny. And like Veet, I think Veet will be fine. Veet's shooting's been up and down, but more so down in Portland. But dude, he's there. He'll be fine. I trust Veet a lot, and I still love that trade. So we'll see. We shall see. Anyway, we're almost back from break. So thanks for sticking around with me. I'm going to mute my mic. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you. We are getting you ready for Blazers versus Hawks. Blazers on the second day of a back-to-back, not necessarily the second night since yesterday was breakfast with the Blazers. I missed that one, but we're here. We're having some fun. Todd in the YouTube chat says, I totally see Scoot being compared to Chris Paul when his career ends. Well, depends how we take that, because we could take that in multiple different ways. So we're going to take that as a Hall of Fame talent, or we're going to take that as a guy who could never win the chip. Like that's which one are we taking? Now, I compare him to Scoot, Todd. I compare Scoot to CP3, and I compare Scoot to Steve Nash, and I compare Scoot to Jason Kidd. Tony Parker was another name I threw out there. And I know people like to go, whoa, pump the brakes. I mean, we're talking, Chris Paul is a Hall of Famer, and so is Jason Kidd, and he doesn't do he doesn't score like Steve Nash could, or he doesn't pass. That's not the point. The reason I compare him to those type of point guards, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, is those guys did not need to score 50 points a night to impact the game. Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, those guys were 100%. We're going to set this offense up, dish to everyone. Steve Nash was just a maestro passing the ball. Jason Kidd did everything well. Great rebounder, great passer, good scorer, but he's going to set your offense up and make it run efficiently. Chris Paul was a phenomenal scorer when he wanted to be, and prime Chris Paul was a problem on both ends. But he kind of played the game where like, yeah, I can go score 40, but I don't need to. I'm going to set my team up and run the offense. It's kind of like Ichiro. The lore around Ichiro was that he could have been a power hitter if he wanted to, but he understood the importance of being a contact hitter and letting the power hitters behind him get him to score. A 2-run blast is better than a solo shot, and he was really, really good at getting on base. Did what the team needed. I think that's who Scoot is. That's why I compare him to those type of players, like Tony Parker. Like Tony Parker's not the same as Steve Nash and Jason Kidd. Is a champion, but that's what made him great too, was understanding that he could score and he was super flippin' talented, but he set up the offense and got everybody where they needed to be. That's why you end up getting great performances out of Manu Ginobili nightly and Boris Diaw and obviously old man Tim Duncan and current acting head coach of your Trailblazers, Thiago Splitter. Those things, I think they all matter. And I still think Scoot Henderson will be absolutely fine. Just need him to get comfortable. We shall see. All right. Speaking of seeing, let's see what's going on around the NBA. It's time for a scoreboard report. All right, let's take a look around the NBA. I told you this is my favorite part about the season right now is the fact that we get to look at the scoreboard because things are impacting your Trailblazers in good and bad ways because the standings, they are tight. The Blazers getting a little early game here, 3 o'clock action, but we'll see what else is going on. Because right now, with 2 minutes left in the second quarter, the Nets have a 44-41 lead over the Cavaliers. At halftime, the Bucks 66, the Bulls 51. 4 minutes left in the first half, Minnesota 46, Denver 40. Those are the only games being played right now. There was a final score, though, from earlier today. The Knicks 114, the Spurs 89. The rest of the schedule, you do have Kings versus Lakers. Later tonight, you have Pelicans versus Clippers. You have Mavericks versus Thunder. So those are ones that are going to be interesting because you want the Thunder to win. You want them to keep the Mavericks at bay in the play-in. And then obviously the Pelicans and the Clippers. The Clippers, they're a little bit different post-trade deadline, so you got to watch that one too because they're currently 10th, while Portland is 9th in the West. You got 76ers taking on the Celtics, the Pistons taking on the Magic, Memphis taking on the Pacers, which is another one kind of worth watching as Memphis is just on the outside looking in. I don't see them catching Portland, but still something to watch as the Pacers go into that game as the worst team in the NBA. And then, of course, here in just over an hour, you have Portland taking on the Atlanta Hawks in the ATL, which is a nice arena down there that they have, State Farm Arena. Another one that we've talked about many a time with what's going on with Moda. It looks so much better post renovation. They did the renos there, and it looks awesome. But that is what you got going down around the NBA tonight. Taking a look at those standings as we talked about why those are important. No Golden State game, no Phoenix game. Those are the two teams above Portland right now. Portland just 2.5 games back of Golden State for the 8th spot. I think that's definitely achievable if you stop losing games to teams like Charlotte and Atlanta. So go in tonight and win this one. That was the NBA Scoreboard Report, powered by McCord Vancouver Toyota, where they live by the slogan, "We make it easy." Check out their inventory now at vancouvertoyota.com. All right, Blazers taking on the Atlanta Hawks tonight, and I want to hear from one of their players. It's time for a new segment here on Blazers Game Day where we go behind enemy lines.
Chris Burkhardt goes behind enemy lines on Blazers Game Day, presented by Coors Light. Choose chill, Portland.
All right, I want to take the time now to hear from former Trailblazer guard CJ McCollum, now playing for the Atlanta Hawks. Saw Atlanta come through town post-deadline. He was a member of the Wizards. And then, of course, there was the Trae Young trade as Atlanta continues to kind of change their face moving forward. Let's hear from former Trailblazer CJ McCollum.
TJ, I know you've been through a couple of trades, but they talk about, going up against your old team might give a little extra juice, and I'm curious how it felt going up against the Wizards today.
It was just another game. I was there for 120 days. Not even 120 days, but it was a great time. I enjoyed my time there. The organization was great to me. Staff was great, and office players. But I moved on, and I think they moved on too. And I wish them nothing but the best. But actually, just another game that we needed to win. Just a team that was in our way. We did what we needed to do, and now we move on to the next game.
Hey, CJ, since Gabe Vincent has entered the lineup, the Hawks, you've been around like 90% of the minutes have been with multiple ball handlers, whether it's yourself and Nikhil or yourself and Gabe, whatever it may be. Of course, spent time in Portland playing off of Dame, and then in Washington, you played with Bob Carrington and guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
How much has the introduction of multiple ball handlers simplified things for this team? And like, how has your experience also made that a seamless transition for you as well?
It's been a seamless transition. Guys play hard. Guys move the ball. Guys play with tempo. Obviously, Gabe's a heady player. He's smart. Understands how to space the floor. Understands how to get into the paint. He's a ball mover. He's a guy that can also create for himself and others. So I have no problem, playing on the ball, off the ball. I'm comfortable in a lot of different roles, and I think we got a lot of different guys that offer diverse skill sets that we have to continue to figure out how to maximize.
Hey CJ, just want to ask how you're doing. Saw that foul where you got pulled down to the ground, and just does that kind of give you like a little extra juice when something like that happens? Just how do you kind of react to that afterwards?
I should have been more efficient, in the second half, but these types of games, you just you want to figure out how to play with leads, figure out how to build good habits, and move forward, and hope that nobody gets injured. And I think we were able to accomplish that tonight.
And they're here from CJ McCollum. Of course, asked about playing his former team. Just another game. Just another game, and that will be tonight as well as Atlanta takes on his former team, the team he started with, the Portland Trail Blazers. Interesting enough, I love how he counted. I was only there for 120 days when talking about Washington. He has played 21 games with Atlanta. He played 35 with Washington. So he's right there. He's gonna pass him by season's end. And CJ McCollum, 34 years old, still bringing it. Now, he's bounced around a little bit, but he's averaging 18.7 points this season in Atlanta. He has started 5 of those 21 games. He's shooting 35% from beyond the arc, 18.6 points in Atlanta compared to the 18.8 he was averaging in Washington. So he's consistent there. 3.4 assists, and still being CJ McCollum. The string of success this guy's put together since his 3rd year in the league when he took over as the starter after Wesley Matthews was out and gone. He's averaged 20 points for most of that time. This is the air quotes worst year in that stretch, and he's averaging 18. Still good, can still go get buckets. Blazers will have to be aware of him. Also, Jonathan Kuminga, who made his Atlanta Hawks debut a few games ago and looked pretty darn good. Speaking of Kuminga and who the Blazers should have to look out for, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time for our keys to the game. What do the Blazers need to do to get a victory over the Hawks? We'll let you know here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Sounds good. with you. Time now to figure out what the Blazers need to do to get a victory over the Atlanta Hawks. Time for our keys to the game.
Victory tonight. Here is Chris Burkhardt with his keys to victory, presented by Cold Filtered Coors Light.
Well, Atlanta comes into this game winners of 3 straight. Those 3 wins came against the Nets, the Wizards, and then the Wizards again. That is 2 of the worst teams in the NBA, 2 of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference, but Atlanta took care of business, and now the Blazers get to take them on. The Atlanta Hawks have a clean sheet. A clean bill of health tonight. No one out. Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jalen Johnson are both questionable. They are available for the game. They also have CJ McCollum, who has been great for them, and Jonathan Kuminga, who has played 2 games for them at this point, is averaging 22 points per game. He has found a home. They're playing him. They like him. In that last victory over Washington, Atlanta won 126-96. Kuminga had 17 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a block, and he was plus 23 on the night in just 30 minutes of action. So he's fitting in well with them. They're playing decent basketball, and the Blazers will have to account for that and be ready for that. So if you're the Blazers, what do you need to do to beat this Hawks team? Well, last time they matched up was January 15th at Moda Center. Portland won 117-101. Big reason why. The big men, Donovan Clingan, Robert Williams, who is not in this one, so you're still going to need to get some help there, but it was the glass. They out-rebounded the Hawks 54-40. They helped them get to 20 second chance points to just 9 second chance points for Atlanta, so that's an 11-point difference right there. They also forced 20 Atlanta turnovers and turned that into 28 points off of turnovers when Atlanta had just 12. So you gotta force those turnovers, be aggressive on the glass like you did last time, and that's how you can get out and beat this team and do so pretty handily. Defensively in that game, it was all in the fourth quarter. That was when they locked in. Keep in mind, it was a pretty close game. Portland got out to the 8-point lead in the first, and then Atlanta outscored them by 10 points in the second. Portland got them back in the third, but in the fourth quarter, Portland outscored Atlanta 29-14. Held the Hawks to just 20% from the floor. Defense, boards, and get those fast break points. And Portland can pull out a victory. Also, get the ball to Vit Krejci. Little revenge game against his former team. But the music means it's time to go. You should stay locked in, though, because coming up next, Chad Doing has the Trailblazers pregame show across the Trailblazers audio network, and then he'll toss the mic to Travis Demers, Blazers first Hawks here on your home, the Blazers, Rip City Radio. And of course, when it's all said and done, it's the 5th quarter where hopefully we're breaking down a Trailblazers victory. Rip City, we'll talk to you after the game.